Hi, how are you? Just got back from vacation a little while ago, just finished unpacking. Had to come out to the trailer because I forgot some of my books, and I figured while I was here, I would just touch in real quick to see how everyone's doing, because I know it's been a bit of a, for lack of a better term, crazy week. I don't like using that word, but it seems on the nose right now. There's a lot going on in our world, and I figured this would be a good opportunity to kind of talk in a real world environment how these things, that I've been talking about with regards to balance, disappointment, regret, um, grounding, how all of these things can really play in a real world environment, abundant mindset. All of these things matter, especially in times where we're in distress. And, I was on vacation and a lot of things happened this week that could be perceived disturbing on multiple levels. However, that's just life in general. I talked a little bit about this a year ago, last September. So this isn't something that just happened this week. It's just more and more information just keeps coming at us. And it's hard to discern what's true, what's not. And depending also where you're getting your information. I think a lot of people are trying to get a well-rounded litany of information and not just from one source. At least I hope not. But again, some people don't want to pay attention to it at all because it's disturbing. Fair. However, I think it's really important for us to at least be informed, because when we are informed, we can make informed choices that can maybe impact that to some degree. Most of us aren't what you would deem rich and in power, right? And I go like this because, again, it's perspective. Some people live in a tiny house and can go anywhere they want and feel rich, right? Or feel empower. Power is just another word that has multiple belief systems around it, right? Some people feel that I'm in power if I can avoid the law, or I can avoid consequences, or I can boss people around. To me, that's not power. However, if we look at the world as a whole, that's typically what we call a person in power, right? To me, power is about self-control. It's about being in touch with your emotions. It's about being able to walk into a chaotic room and not let it rock you. It's about being able to listen to what's happening in this clown show of a world. Sorry, that was judgmental, but that's how it feels to me these days. And not let it put you into a spiral depression. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that, because I know I'm over here talking about butterflies and other people are like, I could, the whole world could implode tomorrow. And it's not that I'm not paying attention. However, one of the things that I talk about when I talk about balance is boundaries, right? Knowing when to shut it off. It's not avoiding information. It's about not losing yourself in it, right? When I talk about what are you focused on? If all you focus on is the information that's being thrown at you, with the understanding that not all of it is based in fact, regardless of where it's coming from, okay? There's a lot of catastrophizing going on. And there's a lot of minimizing going on too. There's a lot of gaslighting, simply, hello. The world's not cheap right now, okay? I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I know where I live in this little piece of the world, there's an impact, okay? And that's okay. We learn to navigate, we go with the flow, we figure it out as we go. That's balance, okay? If I can't buy toilet paper, like what we went through with COVID, you find a way. You know, it may not be as convenient as it was prior, but with a little planning, maybe a little early ordering. I just put in another order for a case of toilet paper because I will never be without toilet paper again in my life. I don't hoard by any means. I don't have enough space in my house to hoard anything. I exaggerate. But my point is there are ways to navigate those things. Don't wait till the last minute. Plan a little. Not to the point where you're driving yourself, insane. It's about finding the balance. Okay, so real world situation. I heard about what happened with regards to the raid and everything else. And I said, you know what? There's nothing I can do about that. Not in this moment. I can be informed about it, but I'm not going to sit there and watch hours and hours of what are they doing about it? What's going to happen? What's this? That? Sometimes we got to let the powers that be play out, but then take control where and when we can, like elections or things like that, right? Regardless of what may or may not be happening in that arena, I'm still going to do my part. And I'm going to go and I'm going to at least be able to say, I had a say, hopefully. But I'm going to do it anyway, right? And outside of that, I'm going to find balance in my life. Because the person who can walk into chaos and not be rocked, that's power. And we get there by grounding, by finding balance. Balance of mind, body, spirit, right? What am I overly focused on? Am I starting to feel anxious, or am I getting like my sweat? What's happening in my body? And what are my thoughts? What are my emotions that are feeding that, right? Finding those connections and being able to make other choices to impact that. That's power. That's control. It's self-control. Okay? So it's not about avoiding, because when we avoid, it's kind of like if we think about healing, right? Sometimes people will avoid a topic or a person or even talking about, topic, right? Talking about something. And then they do that long enough that they forget there was ever any emotion there or anything like that. And they think, well, I'm healed. There's been enough time. I don't deal with it anymore, so I must be healed. But if anything can make you trigger like that when it is put in front of you, then that means you haven't been healed. And the only person that can heal you is you. Okay? Yes, other people can support us through healing process, through grief, through other things. They can help us challenge maybe assumptions or distortions that we may have in our head. And we all have them. We do that. That's part of being human. However, the best and the way to heal is to feel. Okay? You have to allow yourself to feel. But then there's a time and a place, right? If I have to go to work and I have to be mindful, maybe I'm working heavy equipment or something, I can't sit there and crawl up in a ball and feel, right? I can't sit there and cry the day away. I have to be present. I have to be mindful so that I can be safe and others around me can be safe. So in times like that, distraction is helpful. Avoidance is helpful. But we do need to come back to it. And we do need to not avoid in times where it is appropriate to crawl into a ball and allow ourselves to feel. Sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, if I cry, I'll never stop. I'll flood the world, or I'll die, or I'll this, that. And it's like, no, you won't. Chances are you'll probably pass out and sleep. And when you wake up, you'll feel refreshed. That's been me historically anyway. If I feel that strongly and I need to crawl up into a ball and cry, and I have. I've done my share of that. I allow myself to do it because it's there for a reason. And crying is a gift, much like sighing, right? Think of the times when you sigh. It's usually because you're frustrated or you're whatever. There's something attached to that, right? And sighing is our body's way of reminding us to breathe. You know, we hear people, say, oh, you could breathe. That helps with grounding. Well, it does help with grounding, but it can be really uncomfortable for people sometimes. I remember when I first started doing breathing exercises, it was uncomfortable for me because then all of a sudden I felt like I couldn't catch my breath because I was so focused on my breathing that it just wasn't happening normally. It's kind of like meditation. When I first started doing meditation, I was like, I must be doing this wrong. Everybody starts someplace. Okay. And not every skill is for every person, but we can all gain from all of them for the most part. And we've probably all used them to some degree. Some people say, I don't meditate. I'm like, do you pray? Yeah, I pray. Well, then you're meditating. It's a form of meditation. Most of my meditations are either positive affirmations or praying. I don't sit there and try and clear my mind of everything. No. Usually the best thoughts and inspirations come to me when I'm meditating. But some people like those types of meditations. There's so many different kinds of meditations. Anyway, I'm not trying to sell you on meditation. So I'm just trying to talk about finding balance. Because when it feels like the world is in chaos, or maybe even our small little corner of the world, maybe it's our household, maybe it's our job, whatever the case may be, the more grounded and steady you are within your emotions, within your energy, the less those things are going to destabilize you. It doesn't mean they don't exist. It doesn't mean that I don't feel like we have a clown show going on in our world. Because I do. And do I get frustrated at times? Absolutely. However, I process that emotion. I don't ignore it. I don't push it away. I process and I find my inner peace. Sometimes that's through finding butterflies. So it's not that I'm not aware or that I'm ignoring or I'm avoiding, because avoidance doesn't help us in the long run. It may in the moment, depending on what we have going on, because there's a time and a place for everything, right? But the biggest thing to help with any kind of distressing situation, news, or any challenging life experience is that balance. It's that allowing yourself to heal. It's what we focus on, right? I remember watching this documentary, because that's what I do. I love documentaries, especially when it involves people or cultures or things like that, because I find that fascinating. In any case, this was about two survivors from Auschwitz from World War II. That was a German prison camp for Jewish people. In any case, and sorry, I know most people know that, but I don't know who's listening, so I don't want to assume anything. But there was two survivors. There's two gentlemen who, surprisingly, were only about, there was only like one person in between them when they arrived and when they had to get tattooed. So there was only like one or two numbers difference in their arm tattoo. So they knew each other. They just their lives took different paths, but they survived. Unfortunately, their families did not. I believe they both lost their wives and their children in that travesty. In any case, one went on to live a happy and fulfilling life, found love again, and I think he opened his own company or did something. He was in a good place. Whereas the other one, he struggled throughout his life and took solace in a bottle. And he became very cynical and bitter. Okay. And no one would fault him for that. It's just the things that people can survive and live through. It's amazing to me. So I would never judge someone on something like that. I try not to judge people, period. Because at the end of the day, what might be a 5 for me could be a 10 for someone else. So it's apples and oranges. It's not apples to apples. Even though we're all human, our experience of situations, even when they're so similar, and what we do with that experience can just present very differently. Okay. Well, in this case, it did. And the one who went on to live a happy life, he was more focused on, I survived. And it's tragic that my family didn't, and I'm going to mourn them and heal. And then I'm going to live life to honor them because I have the opportunity to, whereas they don't. And that was his focus. The other one, his focus was on, I lost all of this, it's unfair. Which we would call a lack mentality. He was focused more on what he doesn't have anymore, or what was taken away from him, versus on opportunity, or what's before me, and what can I create? How do I move forward, right? He was stuck in the past. Depression, regret, disappointment. And we all experience these things, hopefully not to that degree, but we do all experience it, so we can relate to that on some level, right? In any case, much like I've said in a previous video, what do you focus on? So when these things are happening in our world, are you focused more on what could go wrong, or what has already gone wrong, and how unfair it can be, and this shouldn't be happening, and shouldn't, right? Shaming. And sometimes it's on point. And those are some of my frustrations. Like, why is this even happening? What is going on? This is clown show. It's what I call it. And then I try and laugh because I can find humor in almost anything. And that's what helped me survive my life, quite truthfully, is a sense of humor. Not everyone has my sense of humor, okay? And that's okay. But this is the thing. Be you, okay? Be yourself. Be your authentic and true self. What gets you through? Not avoiding, not ignoring, not pretending like it's not there. But how do you find the balance? How do you ground yourself so that your energy, regardless of what's happening around you, is intact? Be your own rock, okay? Because at the end of the day, if you can do that for yourself, even if you're thrown into a prison camp, you're going to be okay. All right? Not saying, I'm not anticipating that. I'm just saying, using that as an example because we were just talking about that, okay? And when I say you're going to be okay, I'm not saying that, you're not going to die someday, or that maybe I get, worst case scenario, I get thrown into a prison camp and I die, right? But if I'm stable in myself and in my belief systems, if I'm flexible enough to be able to go with the flow and not allow everything that's happening externally to rock me internally, being discerning, what do I allow in? What information am I going to latch onto? Where do I find the patterns, right? And which ones am I going to be like, okay, that's information, but I'm going to just put that over there. And unless I find something else somewhere else that makes sense, I'm probably not going to latch onto it. That's how my mind works anyway. I try to be open-minded to almost everything until it's either proven to be, nonsensical, or it's like, unfortunately, there's a pattern there and it still seems nonsensical. However, now I'm going to pay a little more attention to it. But I'm not going to let anything become my whole focus other than my own self-care, my own family, my own community, if you will, right? This is a time not to push people away because they believe different, or because someone on television told us we should, right? This is a time to come together with the people that you have discerned are trustworthy. Just remember, and we talked a little bit about expectations and disappointments. Meet people where they're at, where you're at, without the judgment, right? Because it's apples and oranges. We're all on different paths here. The brain is so complex. You could spend your whole life and not learn everything there is to know about you. Never mind someone else and what makes them tick. So this is a time to really allow your heart to guide you. To obviously be mindful. Just recognize that none of us have all the information on anything. So in those moments when I say let your heart guide you, I'm talking about your spirit. Let your values guide you. Okay? The things that matter. The things that make connection matter. But be who you are. And I know not everyone makes us feel like we're okay as who we are. But you are. And if there are people in your life that make you feel not okay for being who you are, then those are choices, right? Those are boundaries that maybe need to happen. That doesn't mean you have to remove someone completely from your life, but it may mean I need to set some boundaries here. Like if I ask you for your opinion, then that's fine, but I don't need unwarranted opinions. Example, right? You're always going to have people that are going to give you an unwarranted opinion. That's just a fact of life. However, you don't have to allow it in. And what I mean is you don't have to absorb that as fact or as something that I have to change about myself or I have to be or because so-and-so said so or whatever the case may be. And if you feel you do, then maybe that's some healing that needs to take place. Because at the end of the day, we fill our own cup. Okay? And the more you fill your own cup, the more there is to give others. Some people don't care about giving to others, and that's fine too. At the end of the day, you're only really responsible for yourself, for your pets if you have them, and for your children. Until they become of age where they're responsible for themselves. That's when we cut the cord a little bit. That doesn't mean we're not still in their lives and help when we can, but, there's a fine line between helping and enabling. That's another story for another day. But for today anyway, I just wanted to say, in a real world situation, I look for butterflies because they put a smile on my heart. Okay? It doesn't mean I'm ignoring what's happening. It just means that I might set aside only a certain amount of time every day to take in information, and then I let it go. And then I try and find balance within myself, whether that's meditation, whether that's Reiki, whether that's prayer, whether that's spending time with friends who make me smile, whether that's chasing butterflies, whether that's, you name it. Coloring, sometimes just coloring is a great way to just kind of clear your mind, be in the moment. There's all kinds of things we can do. Read a book. Sometimes it's distraction, like I said, isn't always a bad thing. As long as we come back to the problem. Find the balance. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that's helpful. All right. I'll talk to you soon.